So if any one of you just landed from the moon, I just want to share that there's an agreement between Israel and Hamas, and we will see already the first of the hostages coming out on Sunday, I think, but like next week and in the coming 7 weeks. It's also a ceasefire and different thing that will maybe give some hope in Gaza. I really, really hope that such a day we will see something starting to go to a better direction. And it's a beginning. It will be a bit better now, and hopefully it will be the start of the end. We can pray and hope.
Or as Churchill said, the beginning of the end.
Yes. We really, I think everyone needs it. And of course, in Israel and Gaza, they need it, and we need it. And no one really understands. Actually, we understand why it took so long. It's unacceptable. And we hope as many hostages are alive as possible. We don't know who is and how many, and that the family and those who are alive will be in the best condition. But so I want to say that it's a joyful day, but it's not. It's like a start of a glimpse of a hope, and it's a good day. It's a good direction that finally came, but it's we have unfortunately not a lot to celebrate. The situation is still devastating. Yes, but this is regarding that. Rav Kohn, you disappeared.
Yeah. No, not completely.
Can't see you now. I can see you.
Yeah.
Looks so beautiful. So we need.
Thank you very much.
Yes, good. So today we are going to study a bit and to study together. And we did it very difficult for ourselves today. Rav, it's weird to say in English Rav Michael, right? So in English it would be Rav Michael, but you're Michael. So how, help me here.
Michael is great. Rabbeinu is also good.
Yeah,
Admor, that's usually how in Oslo, how I'm known, just the Admor.
Admirable rabbi.
Yeah.
Yes, but Rav Michael.
Or Michael.
Yeah. But Rav Michael and me, we decided to challenge ourselves together with you and take a midrash that's very raw. Because many times when we come to meet you, we do it with a text that is drawn out of context with a very, I would say, it's already set up in a way that is reachable and you can read it. Now we just picked up a few midrashim from Midrash Rabbah. Now, I know all of you heard the word midrash many times before. We are in a Beit Midrash, but the word midrash here that comes from lidrosh. Lidrosh is either to seek or to try to explain something, to seek something or to try to dig in to understand something. This is like the term, the original meaning. But when we talk about midrash, I would say there are a few types of midrashim. Many of the midrashim, for example, that I studied with you, are midrashim that come from different places in the Gemara. That they come in the Talmud within a discussion about something else, and then come the story, a midrash, and then we cut it out of the context and study it for itself. These are many midrashim like that, also with different types, but that we put aside. We have the main codex of Midrash is what's called Midrash Rabbah. For every book in in the Torah, there's like a codex that was gathered many different interpretations, midrashim, about the text in the Torah. So it starts from a verse, and it can fly to any direction. You will see some of it maybe today, and they just, when it was set up together, they just put up all the midrashim that were told by different people from different places, one after the other, about the same verse. So we have the Bereshit Rabbah, Shmot Rabbah, Vayikra Rabbah. Every one of them have actually every Chumash has two sets of midrashim. One from the school of Rabbi Akiva, one of the school of Bishmael. We are not going into the differences between these schools, even though it's a very interesting topic, but we'll need several shiurim to just to understand that. But this is when you want midrashim, and many times when we say it says in the midrash, when you open in the Torah and you say it says in the midrash that Abraham did this and that, and you don't say it in the text. Usually it comes from the Midrash, from Midrash Rabbah. This is the source. The one thing that you need to know about Midrashim, that they are not obligated to, how do you say, they don't have to be aligned. So you can say a one Midrash, and then you can say the exact contra in the next Midrash. And the third can go to a different direction. They don't have to fit together. You can't really create one whole story with all of them. You can't, because you can't say that both things happened, because sometimes they can give a complete different pictures. And anyway, what we do today is studying a few midrashim from Midrash Rabbah, Midrash from Shmot Rabbah. Yes, Michael, are you sharing or?
Perfect. So for some, I know that some like to scroll and have a look at the sources themselves. You can do that on the link in the chat here on Zoom. You can find the sources. I'll share them here on the screen as well. And then you can choose. I just need to. Here we go.
I really hope all of you know what the book of Shmot is about. Okay.
But let's start there instead of just assuming, and let's start there.
Very short.
Okay, so how would you summarize the book of Shmot in 2 minutes?
In one word, it's the English
Even in
name
one
of,
word.
In one word, the English name of Sefer Shmot is Exodus. Like, say no more. When you talk about Exodus, then you know it's a story of Israelites coming out of Egypt, and the first parasha tells about different story that we know, how they became slaves and wanted to murder the children, and Moshe's story, how he was hidden, and so on and so on and so forth. And Moshe, the parasha ends with Moshe going to the sneh, hearing from God that he will need to be sent as a leader for Israel and take them out of Egypt, and him going back to Egypt. And it finishes actually very poorly. It finishes after he goes to Pharaoh, tells him that he needs to let the Israelite befree the Israelites, sends them, and Pharaoh, instead of sending them, instead of saying yes, I'll do it, he makes life much harder for them. This is how Parashat Shmot, the first parasha, ends. But we are looking on the beginning. Yes, Michael.
Very good.
So
this is Shmot Rabbah.
Yeah, and you can see it's chapter 112, which means it goes. These verses are the ones where we read about Pharaoh's plan on killing the children of Israel, and the story with the Miyaldot, how do you say Miyaldot in English? Yomel.
Dula? Dula? No.
No, not Dula. Dula, the helpers, but the midwives. Yes, thank you, Daniel.
Yeah, thank you.
Just come up and say it out loud. You don't need to write it in the night. I won't. I usually don't see the comments. Yes, midwives. So the story of the midwives. Shortly, if you don't remember, Pharaoh goes to the midwives, tells them to kill the boys and let the girls live. When the Israelite women are giving birth, and then they come and they don't follow Pharaoh's decree. They fear God and they let the boys live. They go back to Pharaoh and tells Pharaoh that the Hebrew women are not like our regular women. They give birth like it's either give birth like animals, or that they have a very strong kichayoten, like they have a very strong life energy. I don't know how to say it. So they managed to give birth without the midwife. Even before the midwives came, they already managed themselves. That's why I'm saying like animals, not in a negative way, just in the way of that animals, as far as I know, don't use midwives, except maybe today in the agriculture we have today, where animals are. It's a different story, but so that's they say that, and then Pharaoh instead, when that finishes, Pharaoh goes and says, and give a decree that all the boys need to be killed. Yes, that's the background.
Good.
Mikael, I'll give you the pleasure to continue from here.
Pharaoh issued 4 decrees against them. Initially, he decreed and commanded the taskmasters to pressure them so that they would produce their quota and they would not sleep at home. He thought to diminish their procreation. He said, if they do not sleep at home, they will not have children. The taskmasters said to them, if you go to sleep in your homes, by the time we send to gather you in the morning, an hour or 2 of the day will have passed, and you will not meet your quota. As it stated, the taskmasters pressured them, saying, fulfill your work, your daily task. So they would sleep on the ground. God said to them, meaning the Egyptians, I said to their forefather Abraham that I will multiply his descendants like the stars, as it is stated, for I will bless you and I will multiply, which it says in Bereshit. So here we're talking about the increased work that they were placed under after Moshe asking nicely, should be said, whether they could leave. And Pharaoh does something which is in line with his initial worry. He was worried that the Jews would become so many that they would rise up against him from within his own kingdom, from within Egypt. And here he places work and he places hardships on them so that they won't be able to have children and therefore not be able to multiply. And God informs the Egyptians of the promise that he made to Abraham.
Yes. So this is like the regular. In many ways, it doesn't say something we can't learn from the text, but it's not what we read in the text. So here we have a very interesting. It goes and tells us about a new plan that Pharaoh had. Now, where do they know it from? Like it's a why do you say it? We don't know. but I think in a way it reminds us of how these things happen, right? That when it starts saying Pharaoh issued 4 decrees against them. Why does it say 4 decrees? I think here the Midrash comes and explains that there is a slowly plan. That we usually read the story and they tell the story in the kindergarten, for example, or in a simple level. We have a story. He was frustrated. They became slaves, and then he said he want to kill all the boys. Now, how one thing led to the other is not clear from the Torah. So the Midrash here comes and says we have here a gap. How do these things happen? Like what happened in the court when he started explaining what was his plan, and also he comes and says this is we should have to be aware of things that can result in something else. Like think of I read this and I read a conspiracy, right? We have here a conspiracy of Pharaoh says if they do one thing, it will affect something else. He has he has a secret plan. And it's important because a secret plan means not everyone were aware about it. The Israelites were not aware about it. Like, what is the plan? So it's not just a decree that goes on and everyone knows now the one thing, this is what is happening. No, the situation is actually a situation of that people are not aware of what is happening. There's a fight between God and Pharaoh. Pharaoh, you think you can stop them? I will show you that this is not going to happen. We have a fight behind the scenes, right? That is not in front of the situation, but it also tells, I think, something of where the Israelites are at, right? That they're not aware of Pharaoh's plan. They think Pharaoh wants to use us as slaves. Like they think that they are fighting someone who wants to misuse their working force, but they don't know that Pharaoh has a different plan. The Torah is, I think, open to something maybe that we should be aware of today too. That many times decrees has a hidden agenda that we're not aware of. We don't know what they really want to achieve. I think there's something here that it gives us an opening to think about things that happens around us. These are at least my thoughts about it. Did you have something, Michael?
No, not yet. I'm wondering if anyone has maybe someone has a question or a comment.
Yes, I'm already running to the explanation before the understanding. Sorry.
I have a comment. Can I?
Yes.
So what it really gives me the vibes of is like the kind of like playing with that diplomacy and trying to misuse the power in order to exclude the Israelites from existing in the end of the day. So it's like a sneaky diplomacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is
I would say it's sneaking diplomacy, but also a graduate plan, right? There are 4 decrees. 4 decrees actually gives us, when you open the Torah, we would actually see that there were 4 decrees. Because you can actually see in the first chapter that in the beginning it does say they have to work, and then they became more and more, and then it started saying that the Egyptians have Pharaoh didn't say that the Torah doesn't tell us that that this was a decree, But here, maybe they added as a decree. There's a second stage. The first stage, they had to work, but then the Egyptians added that they had to work befarech in a way that was extremely hard labor, and not only working labor as a taxes that they had to pay. And then also in the second phase, first they go with the midwives, and then it goes outside to everyone. Like a decree, you have to kill all the baby boys. So the Torah actually hits 4 steps of the procedure, and the Midrash here focuses on something that already exists in the text. Yes, but we want to come to the midwives because this is what we are.
Okay. And you're outsmarting them, so they will not multiply. We will see whose matter prevails, mine or yours, immediately. But the more they would afflict them, the more they would increase. So here it seems like
God wins.
And Rabbi Akiva expounded, on account of the righteous women who were in that generation, Israel was redeemed from Egypt. So what did these women do that made us be redeemed from Egypt because of them? When they would go to draw water, the Holy One, blessed be He, would arrange for them small fish in their jugs, and they would draw half water and half fish. They would take it to their husbands and would place 2 pots on the fire, one with hot water and one with fish. They would feed them, bathe them, anoint them with oil, and give them to drink, and they would consort with them between the pots. As it is stated, now you may lie within the sheepfolds, wings of the dove covered with silver, as we read in Tehillim. And in reward for having lain between the pots, Israel merited the loot of Egypt, as is stated, wings of the dove covered with silver. Okay.
But let's continue because
when they would conceive, they would come to their homes. When the time of their birth arrived, they would go and give birth in the fields under apple trees, as it stated, under the apple tree I roused you. The Holy One, blessed, so God would send an angel from the heavens above who would clean them and tend to them like the beast that tends to its young, as it stated, as for your birth on the day you were born. Your umbilical cord was not cut, and you were not washed in water for cleansing, and you were not swaddled. They would take 2 round vessels of earth, one containing oil and one containing honey. As it stated, he suckled them for honey from a boulder. Once the Egyptians became aware of them, meaning the babies, they sought to kill them. And a miracle was performed for them, and they were enveloped in the ground. The Egyptians brought oxen, and they plowed the land above them, as it stated, upon my back plowers plowed. After the Egyptians would leave, they would sprout and emerge like the grass of the field. As it stated, I caused you to increase like the growth of the field. Once they grew, they would come in herds, in Adarim, to their homes. As it stated, you came to have great beauty. Do not read it. So here there's a play on words. Do not read Ba'adi Adaim, but rather Be'edrei Adarim. When the Holy One, blessed be He, revealed Himself on the sea, they recognized Him first. As it stated, this is my God, and I will glorify Him.
Yes. Wow. Thank you, Michael. Now you got a hardcore Midrash, okay? This is how Jewish thought usually come through. Not just an easy Midrash. This is usually full of quotation, jumping from the one to the other, showing evidence from the one after the other. So before we start, what do you think, and what didn't you understand, or what did you understand from this quite weird thing? Who's brave enough?
Anyone have a question to the text? Mm-hmm. Does anyone have a question on the text?
No, they understood everything, I think. So
yeah, I mean, apparently. I mean, I think someone else should be giving this shield, maybe. But
Hey,
I think Pauline wants to. Good, thank you.
Go on.
But Pauline is just showing the way. She's not. You don't think, good, she's talked, so now. No, she's just showing you how to do it. everyone else are also allowed to join in. Yes, Paulina.
I don't want to be the role model, but basically, I just Googled and I didn't get the answer. But do not read it Badi Adaim, but rather Bedrei Adarim. What's the difference? What does it mean, the other one? What's the play?
Yeah. Okay, that's a very simple. That's a classic way of Midrash to work. That instead of, you can see here, they give a quotation from somewhere else to explain something that is happening here, and the quotation here is you came to have great beauty, Ba'adi Adaim. Ba'adi Adaim is great beauty, and the word Adaim is the word that can it can have different meanings, but if you add a reish
Yes.
instead of adaim, if you add a reish, it's adarim.
Yes, it's
Adarim are
herd.
herds. Okay, so it said instead of do not read, it's a classic rabbinical way to say it. Ah, you think it's written this and this? No, you should read it in this way. Add the reish. So instead, ba'adi adaim, say be'edrei adarim. Adrei adarim is like herds of herds. So many herds, and this is the way to say this beauty, and also to say this beauty includes many herds of people. So many people who are born this way. So this is like the playing with the words.
I
So
think
thank you for asking.
I also must admit that I'm like during this Midrashim, I'm learning English on the another level because there's some words where I'm just like, what does it mean? And I'm just Googling. And I see I'm not the only one, Olivia. That's good. I'm
Yeah,
happy.
me too. I use the Hebrew. I like the English. I'm confused completely. But that's because it's easy Hebrew here. But um, yes. Any thoughts of this midrash?
And my thought of this midrash was about the ethics of having children in a time like that. And here, having kids is seen as a good thing. That's one of the things that the Midrash is saying, is that this is one of the great things that the women did, and one of the reasons we merited to leave Egypt was because the women were the not just a contributing fact, but they were the ones that made sure that there was a future, and that they continued having kids, and that they continued to procreate during the hardships and the slavery in Egypt. And this was one of the questions that came up during the Shoah, during the Holocaust. One of the questions that Jews dealt with was whether having children in such a time was the right thing to do. So that's where my thoughts were taken when I read the Midrash, was to this question: is this really something you want to subject your kids to? You want to bring children into such a life, so to such a situation, and yeah, unfortunately, we had this question again 3,000 years after the situation that the Midrash is talking about. We had this situation again during the Shoah.
Yes. One of the midrashim that we didn't bring here, in the famous midrash that comes also in Shemot Rabbah, about how Moses' father, when the decree about killing the boys came, so he left his wife because he didn't want to baby that will be born to be murdered. And
Yeah.
then his wife comes to him and confronts him and say, "You're much worse than Pharaoh, because Pharaoh did a decree only against the boys. You make a decree against the boys and the girls, so you're worse than him. You have to do what you can to fight life, even if the boys will be caught and die. At least you will save the girls." And then he comes back to her. This is also a midrash that doesn't say in the Torah, but touches exactly that point. How can you bring babies to such a world? These are words that are said today too. I have friends who decided not to bring children, and I discuss with them all the time. Unfortunately, some of them they would have been the best parents in the world, and I'm like, I think it's a shame for the world that they are not bringing some children. We need their children. It's amazing people, but they have such like a moral place, and they start thinking of other big questions. And the Midrash here goes and says like the people that fight for life through making children, which is definitely very, very relevant for today too. And we'll do whatever it takes, whatever it takes.
Yeah, we find two different two famous different opinions during the Shoah, and one of the ones that it's heart-wrenching to read is from Mordechai Rothenburg in 1942. Was asked the question from he was asked the question from a young student if he was this I believe is Hungary, whether this newly married student, if he was able to or if he was permitted to not sleep with his wife during the time of the month where she was most likely to become pregnant, in order to avoid pregnancy and children. And Mordechai Rothenberg answers that it's that actually that the only ones that are permitted to sleep together are the ones that don't have any children yet. They are they're actually, it says they're not even obligated, but they are permitted to. But whoever has children and has fulfilled this mitzvah of procreation, they're no longer permitted. He believes, which is radical. But
But it's
but then
also
yes,
in that
yeah.
situation was to protect their lives, because it was a situation that being pregnant was also
Sure.
life-threatening to them, not only to the children. So the situation is, I think, even more extreme than Pharaoh's decrees. Yeah, these are the question no rabbi wants ever to be asked, and no person wants to come to a situation that they need to ask them. But I think we need to speak about another thing in the text, the beautiful sentence of Bizchut Nashim Tzedkaniot. Bizchut Nashim Tzedkaniot Nigalu Israel. This is a very famous quotation, comes from Rashi says it and many others. Right in the middle, in the beginning, Rabbi Akiva here. Rabbi Akiva expounded on account of righteous women who were in that generation, Israel was redeemed from Egypt. So then comes a story what they did, but this is a sentence that is tells us something about female role in the Torah, and here that the only reason that the Jews were rescued is because of righteous women. Now you can say that the Midrash explains this righteous women through their actions, but I think again here the Midrash sheds a light on something you can already read in the text. Because is any of you remember more or less the story in the beginning of the story in Parashat Shmot? Who are the heroes of the beginning of the book of Exodus? The first heroes when mentioned, who are they?
Is that
Miriam.
Miriam and
Miriam.
the wife of Pharaoh?
Okay, so you say you mentioned Miriam. By the way, she's mentioned without a name. Moses' sister. Pharaoh's daughter, also mentioned without a name. Anyone else?
Jochebed.
Yeah. So Moses' mother, again, she's also mentioned without a name. It just says, "Vayelech ish mibeit Levi vayikach et bat Levi." So a man from Levi took a woman, a daughter of Levi. Later on, we know that her name is Yocheved, but in the beginning, she's mentioned without a name. So we have Yocheved, Miriam, Bat Paro, and of course, two others that you forgot to mention.
The daughter of Potiphar. No, sorry.
Bat Paro, the daughter of Pharaoh.
Yes.
Yes, we mentioned her, yes. And the two midwives, the one we in our story,
Oh,
the
yeah,
story of
yeah.
the midwives who. So all the people, 5 people who are mentioned named specifically in the first chapter of Sefer Shemot are women. And where are the men? They are not to be found.
True.
This is quite amazing. So I think that when Rabbi Akiva says on account of righteous women who were in that generation, Israel was redeemed from Egypt, I'm not sure he only means the story that he's now telling about how the women sacrificed and fought for the next generation, but they actually read something that already is in the text. That the Torah starts the story of our rescue with 5 courageous women, with 5 righteous women, with 5 women who fought against the system, who decided to fight what they see around them. And I think Rabbi Akiva here really catches something in the text, giving us a spotlight. If you weren't aware, look on the role of the women here. Or there's a thing in Hebrew saying, "B'makom she'en ish hayeh ish." Like in a place where there's no a human, you should be a human. So I would say that Sefer Shmot says, "B'makom she'en ish," be a woman. Where there's no man, we need a woman to come and save the day because the man failed. It's very rare in the Torah that you have female role as a like the main character. It's very rare in the Torah. But actually, many of these places, when the women have a major role, it comes from a place. I have one of my rabbis. He said that it goes through the whole Tanakh. Whenever you have female in a main character, it's in a place that that something of chesed, an extreme deed is needed. That's something that is extraordinary. Then comes the female role in a place that you see that with Tamar, you see it here with these 5 women. You see it with Dvorah and Yael and many other places that a female role is the role of the chesed of doing something that is. I can mention many others, but they now it's not only a good thing. It means all the leader disappears. Like I would say that in biblical terms, like there's no one. It's a bad thing to say today, so I'm sorry for saying it out loud. Especially, I can see quite a few women here around. But say, just like you say today, so even a woman can do that, right? Like when you talk someone down, you carry something heavy, you say, "Ah, come on, you." I would say that the Bible comes and says, we need the woman because no one was to be found. We came to such a bad situation that we were dependent on women to come in because no one else was there to rely on. It's connected to the female roles in ancient times. But I think this is a large focus of Sefer Shmot, saying to begin the rescue, we need these stories of someone who decided to take responsibility And these were the women, because the men weren't there to do that job. Yes. Any question, or should we continue? Or Mark, Rav Mikael, do you have anything else to add here?
That's good. I say we read on a bit.
Great.
The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of one was Shifra and the name of the other was Puah. So this is a pasuk in this week's parasha. When he saw that they were procreating, he issued a decree against the males. That is what is written. The king of Egypt said to the midwives. Who were the midwives? So Rav said, a daughter-in-law and her mother-in-law, Yocheved, and Elisheva, daughter of Aminadav. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachman says, a woman and her daughter, Yocheved and Miriam, were the midwives. And Miriam was no more than 5 years old, as Aaron was 3 years old, older than Moshe. Our rabbis said she would go with her mother Yocheved and assist her, and she was very quick. While the child is still young, his character is recognizable. That is what Solomon said, even a lad is recognized through his deeds. The name of one was Shifra, and the name of the other was Puah, because she would attend to Meshaperet, which is play on the word.
Attend to is a very bad translation. Meshaperet is improve.
Right.
Yeah, but continue.
Interesting. The baby, so she would attend or improve the baby when he would emerge covered in blood, Puah, because she would express nofat, wine, into the babies after her mother had attended to them. You happy with the second translation? Yeah.
It's more, yeah.
Closer. Okay. Alternatively, Shifra, because Israel procreated, Sheparu v'ravu, in her day, Puah, who would revive Mapia, the baby, when they would say it was dead. What are they doing here, Jair? And they're going
First
to
of all,
be
you can see here.
continuing for a while as well.
What? Continuing?
And they're going to continue this wordplay.
Yeah,
for a
which is
while.
beautiful. It shows again that we don't know, right? And you can see that many people know immediately. If you ask everyone who studied in a religious school in Israel, who were the midwives, everyone will tell you Miriam and Yocheved. Right? This is the answer. Who are the midwives? Miriam and Yocheved. Which is funny, right? Because the Torah says explicitly the names are Shifra and Puah. So the Torah gives them names which are not Miriam and Yocheved, and the first thing that the Midrash comes and say, no, they are these are Miriam and Yocheved, and which and then they start talking about the meaning of this word Shifra and Puah, which is a beautiful thing. First of all, in Hebrew, that you can see that every word can be interpreted in so many ways. So why were it called Shifra? You can play with this word Shifra in many different, and probably historically, every one of them, when it says here alternatively, probably there was a rabbi giving a sermon in the synagogue, and you know why she was called Shifra? Because Israel procreated, Paru v'Rabu. That's why God gave them the name Shifra. And then someone else in a different synagogue, and maybe 100 years later, said something else. And then the Midrash here took the bottom line and put them one after the other. So this is the way we need to read it. Every one of these sentences is supposed to be read by themselves first, and only then see the whole picture. So reading them now in a row will just confuse us, and says, so what is the right answer? Why was she named Puah? Is this answer, this answer, is this one? What's the right answer? So first of all, none of them is the right answer. And all of them maybe are the right answers. Like that depends on what we want to read. So I'm not. You can say different things on Shifra v'Puah. I would definitely say that you can feel through the names Shifra v'Puah something. Those who speak Hebrew can hear. They can hear something good, something positive. Po'eh is something very living. It can be a sound of an animal. It's a or it's also connected to water that comes to live, and and shifra is both beautiful, shufra like shufra, the shufra is something beautiful, and something of improvement, like shofar shapru, to improve. So you have names that are very alive. But I do want to look in the beginning of this midrash. If you can scroll a bit up, you can see here a principal question. Two aspects. Now I'm going to ruin the bat mitzvah speech in synagogue on Shabbat. So don't tell her I already told you what he's going to talk about, okay? But one of the most difficult, you can see that the two opinions in the Midrash here of who are these midwives. So first of all, one of them says it's Moses' mother and sister, Miriam and Yocheved, and the other says it's Yocheved and Elisheva bat Aminadav, like connects to someone completely different. Maybe Miriam is the same one, but Elisheva bat Aminadav. No one really knows. I have to set a question on the possibility that it's either O, and not only because the Torah tells us a different name, but the biggest question is, it says the king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives. So every one of you that read that thinks immediately that these midwives were Hebrew, right? And that is wrong. Why is it wrong? Because there are two opinions among interpreters. When it says Hamieldot Haivriyot, the Hebrew midwives, it can either be Hebrew midwives or the midwives of the Hebrew. Very big difference between the two, right? Are they Hebrews themselves, or are they the midwives who work with the Hebrew babies or the mothers? So the very big difference between the two, and I think that the Midrash here, we need to understand why the Midrash says what it says, but it's also it's interesting to look on the gap between the text and the Midrash. Because the text, can you show the text itself, Michael, from the, right, when you press on the text of Exodus, when you press on in the side, you can go to the place in the Tanakh, I think, no? Yeah, thank you. Yes, but let's see the whole chapter. So in chapter 1. I'll ask you, let's see if one of you think. What was Pharaoh's plan with the midwives? Can you explain me?
Like there
Yes.
will be just girls, and then so the girls will will get married with the Egyptian boys, and then will be assimilation.
But how? How are the midwives going to execute these babies? What's the plan? Be graphic. How is it going to happen? These two midwives are going to go to all the Hebrew mothers? What does the Torah explain to us? How is this going to happen? Paula, you can continue. You already started,
But
right?
maybe, it's like not all the people are going to have at the same moment the baby. So maybe they are quite, maybe it's okay with two for I don't know how much was the population at that moment. Maybe it was like, and maybe you don't need maybe
Okay.
6. You need 2. You start
So
with one
maybe
part,
2
and
were
then
enough.
you move forward, and so long term. It's
Yes.
like,
So maybe 2 were
oh,
enough. Yeah. So I would let's say you're right. And these two were enough. And can you explain to me why, when they go back to Pharaoh and says, let's say, Paula, you are Pharaoh, okay? You play Pharaoh. And you tell me, I'm the midwife, I need to kill all the all the babies, all the boy babies. And then when I come back to you and you ask me, so what happened? How come the Israelites, the Hebrew wives still have babies? And then I will answer, well, because they do it like animals. They give birth before even I reach, then they're already alive. What is supposed to be your next answer or question?
I will say, how can it be? I will say, no, they can, we need to, I don't know.
No, but
I
you
think
will
was
ask me,
very,
so
yeah,
why
it was
didn't you
very,
kill me then? You're supposed to ask me, but why didn't you kill them when you came, right?
yeah, but something is lacking, some information lacks.
So
Because
can
for
anyone here
one
explain
thing,
to
go
me?
to a very drastic one later.
Yeah, but so why can't they kill the baby after they came? Why do Pharaoh accept their answer? Yes, Liora.
Well, maybe it's because, you know, like because they're only two, then the Israelis like will be onto them. So maybe it works more like with delation. Oh, I don't know with the accent how to pronounce this word, but like basically snitching on them, you know, like this one had a boy in the house. You need to go send your army or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, but I'm asking again, why do Pharaoh accept their answer? Pharaoh's
But
supposed to say to them, okay, when you came home and saw them, then you were supposed to kill them.
yes, but then it would jeopardize the whole plan because if, like, you see that like there's few babies boy that have been dead by these two people, then the whole community will start to speak. No,
But okay, but who will start to speak?
the other Israelites, because if a mom sees that her son is missing or being killed by this person, they're
And
gonna
if
start
they kill
speaking up.
them if they kill them when they came before earlier,
I don't know.
so what's the difference between killing them
Because then
while birth?
maybe they won't realize, because it's like you just do it like this maybe, but the other thing is to kill the baby in front. It's like, of course the mother will not let.
Okay, so what you say now is actually very crucial. Esther, Olivia, you wanted to, you have suggestions here?
Well, you see, when a woman is giving birth, she's concentrating. It's like life and death matter. She's like pushing from and shouting and screaming, and the midwife, if it's not good, she can make accident there, purposely or not purposely, and kill the baby. And the mother would not know until the mother is asking, is the baby breathing now? Why is the baby not breathing? Then the midwife would say, I don't know, something happened. So they did it intentionally, the midwives, so that they wanted to save all the babies, boys and the girls.
I think
at
you're
the same time. But
completely
if there
right.
is, the women were not giving birth alone. They were surrounded by other women. They would have been witnesses.
I think you're
But
completely
now,
right. And this also shows
yeah,
what Pharaoh's plan.
yes,
Pharaoh's plan was to make here something no one notices.
right.
Could
Tell
be
the
that
midwives, you should
Mm,
kill the babies, the boy babies, before people realize.
exactly.
And that's what we learned from here, that this was a secret plan. This wasn't a decree. He didn't announce the midwives are going to kill all the baby boys. If you did that, then you would have. So this was a hidden plan, a secret plan of them killing the boys without anyone noticing. So and that's why they couldn't do that after the mother already saw her living baby boy alive. So so they couldn't kill them without noticing. This is extremely important to understand the text. But this also shows something about who are the midwives, because if the idea with the midwives is that that this is a secret plan about killing the boy without anyone noticing, then there's no chance that these midwives are Hebrew or Israelites. Because if you have a secret plan of killing the other people, I don't think you will take the person from that people to be your those who will make that plan go. And also the answers of the Torah, which, as you can read here, that if you go a bit down, the reason they saved the babies was because they feared God. ותראינה מילדות את אלוהים. Not because they wanted to, not because they were Israelites who wanted to save their own people, right? Which put it in a different place. No, they did it because they feared God and didn't want to. So they weren't on the Israelite side. They were on the moral side of morality. They weren't part of this fight between Egyptians and Hebrew. They were just people doing the good thing, the right thing. And that's why I would argue to those who say that these are the midwives of the Hebrew and not Hebrew midwives. So this put the Midrash in a question mark. Michael, I know we didn't speak about this before, so I don't know if you have something to add in this, but it's...
I didn't. It was interesting. The last thing you said, but you said that they didn't do. They did it for the right reason.
Because they feared God. Fear God in the Torah represents moral. When it says about a place, "En yirat Elohim b'makom hazeh," it means this is a place with no moral. So being God fearful, it's clear they didn't know God of Israel, right? Because no one knew him at that time. Fear of God is a basic idea of fearing the having a basic moral, I would say, which is connected to fear of God. That's why they did it. This is what the text says, at least. "ותראינה בידות את האלוהים." So this was the reasoning. That's why I find it hard to see that the Midrash is right. But I think that the Midrash is also aware that it's not the pshat of the Torah. It's not the simple meaning of the Torah. But the Midrash wanted to say something about specific women and want to say something about these women and gives them some special. We will read about Miriam and Yocheved without the names in a second. So saying these are the same women, it's about giving them even more quality or something. I don't think it's the simple meaning of the Torah, but it lies also somewhere in there. Yes, we already came to an end, so there's so much more to continue. But here you have a taste of how you're supposed to study Torah, like going into the text of the Midrash and trying to understand every sentence and trying to. It's not necessarily something you can just know and understand what they want of you. You're supposed to study and learn and think and open the other sources and see why do they say this and why do they say that? How does this reflect in the pshat? What it relates to? And there's so many aspects you can see in every, really in every pasuk, in every sentence they say. But maybe Michael, I'll give you the final words.
No, it's good. It's I mean, beautiful. I'm still thinking about the last one. So I'm still.
Now you have something maybe to talk about in the synagogue in Oslo.
Yeah, I'm still a bit. I don't know. I'm not so. Frustrated that he didn't say that they did it because they wanted to save lives. Yeah.
Of course, they did it because they want to save lives. This is the fear of God.
But
Fear of God means you have a moral. Moral, you save lives. This is something a moral person will do. So the
take
reason.
consideration that the midwife need to bring life to the world. So you're not, it's exactly what you are supposed to do.
Yes.
So
Yeah, but usually you're also supposed to do what the king tells you. And in many ways, this contra between Vatirena me'eldot et Elohim, these me'eldot, these midwives, were supposed to be afraid of Pharaoh. The
But
king who is
when you
the
choose
king who is
your
like a god told them to kill them, and they choose life, and they choose to fear Elohim, to have a moral fear of a real God, not because of I don't think that there were theologians who knew what Hashem is and what God and these different gods, but they had like this basic moral of course you're not killing children. It's a of course you choose life. This is a basic moral every person is supposed to have, but it's not something that is obvious. Not when the king tells you to do something else. The king who in their world is like a god. And even though they had this moral, that is not an obvious thing. Yes, Olivia?
I think Pauline raised her hand first.
I think I just wanted to ask when you are studying the Torah, right? Because I know what you're doing in the synagogue is like reflecting to like the life as it is, as we live it as people. But when studying Midrashim, do you think it's relevant to refer to the modern times when reflecting and trying to understand the Midrashim?
I think, of course, you have to read them in relation with the time they were written.
Mm-hmm.
But after you did that and carefully, you definitely have to apply them to the time of today. This is the whole meaning of Torah Shebe'al Peh, because this learning should be relevant for us today. It's not about learning what was right in the past. It's what was right in the past that we can gives us reflections about today. But we should be very careful with using today's interpretation to understand what was like. We have to be careful with automatically just like put it as the one thing and use the same values, for example, from today. We can have many examples of how wrong it is to apply think even in our times, moral demands changed the last 50 years, especially to when we talk about female rights, right, and sexual harassment and all of these things. But you can't condemn someone who lived 80, 90, 100 years ago with the level which is demanded for someone who lives today, because they lived in a different world with different values and different. So we could say that it's not okay, but it's definitely not okay in a different level.
In a different
And that's
context.
only 100 years. So we go 2,000 years. It's we have to be careful with it, but it's more so it's relevant to read them in the light of their time, but then also to understand what does it mean then for us today when we read it in light of their time.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Olivia?
Yeah, and I just wanted to elaborate on what Paula said, because I think it's very thought-provoking to ask. It's very contradicting to ask midwives who devote their life to bringing in life to then end life. It's like telling a doctor not to save a patient. It's like so contradicting. But it just, I guess, like goes to show how important the secretive part of it was to Pharaoh.
Olivia, the Holocaust was already mentioned today. I hate to mention it again. In the Holocaust, German doctors were part of the killing machine and doing experiments. And I want to say it's only German doctors, but as far as I know, also Danish doctors did the horrifying things in Greenland to Greenlandic women, and Danish doctors weren't willing after the war to help German kids who were hurt in the war. They weren't willing to help them. So doctors and people who are supposed to save life not doing their jobs is is unfortunately part of history, and that's why we can't take what they did for granted. It's not obvious to go against authority. It's actually the harder thing to do. It's really the harder things to do. So it's even more extreme. It's much more extreme. It's not only, of course, midwives are helping lives. No, it's an amazing, crazy amazing thing that we read. Tikva? You just continue. We're supposed to finish 10 minutes ago. Yes, Tikva.
Well, I want to say that the Jewish woman in Mizraim, they have a special mission. Hashem gives to the Jewish women a special mission to preserve the life and to motivate the husband to preserve the Jewish life in Mizraim.
Yes.
This is a midrash in about, I don't know, about this about the mirror, the tells us about the sorry for my English. And about the how the Jewish women motivate the husband for not to give up about and to preserve the Jewish life. And this is a wonderful midrash. So I was very, very touching about this.
Yes.
So, well,
Thank
this
you.
is my commentary.
Yes, and the last comment, Chaya. You use Chaya?
I maybe go a little out of the whole thing, but just to clear up a little bit what is fairy tale in reality. I have been studying a lot about Chinese empire, and midwives at that time, they were hired on purpose to kill the babies or the concubines. So the emperor, if for example, some of the concubines were pregnant, but they were not meant to really, the emperor didn't want to have children with them, he hired midwives on purpose to kill those babies. So it's part of the history. Sorry to say and sorry to inform you guys, but it's part of history. Midwives, it's the concept is something really beautiful, like somebody mentioned about the doctors, but reality, it's something else, and history shows it very well.
Or not only. Most midwives, most of the time, help people to give birth.
Yeah, most, but in the past, it didn't help. It didn't really happen exactly in that way.
Yeah, no,
and as you also mentioned, like the king, emperors, whatever, it's power.
Yes. And this is something definitely relevant, Paulina, if you asked about for today, standing up against authority when it's morally wrong. This is actually what they teach us.
I will just also add a little comment that like I grew up in Poland and getting the stories of what's happening right now with like the doctors lying about the pregnancies being okay and then the ladies giving birth to the kids who are gonna die and stuff. It's still happening in 25. So I definitely get your comment high.
But they're switching roles because now they're lying to make the baby born.
Yeah, but then the baby's born, all that stuff. I think it touches me on a personal level, to be honest.
I understand. It's yes, it's still a challenge, and it's I would say this is gives us a direction of how we're supposed to be. Really, we need to be inspired by these women, and as Rabbi Akiva said, we were saved because of righteous women who did the right thing, and we need that. We still need that also today.
All
Tov.
right. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Erev Tov.
Thank you very much.
Erev Tov.
Erev Tov.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.